Hello, welcome to the MOPS BD. What we're going to do today is to install and configure an SMTP server. Let's go to the server manager, features, and then click on the add features. Uh, Here is the SMTP server. Add the required role services. These are the prerequisites for SMTP server. Click next. Introduction to the web server. This is for your reading. WSRM is already installed by default and it's turned on. Click next. Accept the default option unless you want to install some other authentication systems. Windows system IP and domain restrictions and policies. By default, FTP server and everything. So I'm good with this. So click next and install. So finally the installation completed. We're going to manage the installed options from IIS. Let's see, we have, there are two options. This is Windows IIS 6.0 and this is IIS 7. As you can see, the virtual SMTP server is already installed. Okay, let's create a new virtual server for SMTP. Name of the virtual server, mobs SRV. Um, let's do it SMTP1. Click next. IP address for this server would be 120 and the network card over here is configured like this. TCP IP6 is already enabled. This is my network properties. Go to advanced DNS. Make sure these two checkboxes are turned on. So 120 it is. Click next. Home directory would be, since your mail server would have much of the mails stored over here, SMTP1, and the domain would be mobsSRV dot bd.org. So let's see some properties. This is your primary SMTP properties for your SMTP server. Microsoft doesn't have much to. It doesn't. It's actually pretty simple for setting up the SMTP server, and you don't need to go through loads of things to configure, and it's pretty basic. So let's do these things. Limit the connections like up to 100. Enable logging unless you decide to do. This is a readable text format, and there are other options also if you want to choose otherwise. Let's go for configure multiple identities for this virtual server. You can edit this port 25, and by default SMTP works on port 25 unless otherwise you want it differently. So it's okay. We need to do what we need to do is to secure this SMTP because there are people in the net who would actually pass through your mails mails. You pass through all their mails through your SMTP. So we don't want to happen this thing. We don't want these things to happen. Anonymous access should not be checked in. Basic authentication, and also TLS default domain would be mobs-bd.org. Integrated Windows authentication would also secure your transactions between SMTP and your Exchange server or other servers if you have domain name. Okay, let's do this since I haven't actually set up my domain yet. So connection control, let's go for all except only the list below. IP address should be 192.168.1. Let's do 100 because 100 I have an Exchange server on this email address on this IP address. Relay restrictions should be all except add a group of computers. Address domain, you can also restrictions would be because I'm using my organizational domain. Let's say it works. Okay, only the list below. Sorry, mobs-bd.org. So this SMTP server would be used only by this domain, so you're more secure that way. Messages limit, it's actually up to you how much you want each messages to be carrying out. If those if the message is more than 2 MB, it will it will block the mail delivery options, outbound security, basic authentication, or integrated Windows authentications. Uh, this authentication needs to be put in, and if required, TLS encryption would be a nice idea. Outbound connections, limit number of connections to outbound, limit number of connections per domain is let's say 1000. Advanced, maximum hop count, uh, 50 and 30 would be maximum. Masquerade domain, I don't need those things in right now. You can also perform reverse DNS lookup in incoming messages. So if you want it, LDAP routing, anything if you want, apply. Security, administrators and local authority services over here are already granted secure. These are the operators, so these would moderate the SMTP server. So it's already a done deal. So finally, we have already created an SMTP server, and it's successful.